Russ Bowler, you were a LSU pole vaulter, is where I saw the Google was really heavy. Like when I typed your name into Google, that's
Hmm.
pretty cool, especially for me because, like I was telling you, I was wrong on the grade. I was actually in ninth grade when I hit the 12 foot, and then I
Oh,
saw all the lacrosse players running out with their gear, and I was like, that's for me.
12 feet, ninth grade's really good.
Yeah,
That's really, you had a lot of potential if you jumped 12 feet your ninth grade year.
that's what my track coach said, and he was mad because he held the school record at 12.6, and he was like, "You're gonna get it." He's like, "If you just stick with me, I guarantee you're gonna have it." And I was like, "Yeah, I just want to play lacrosse."
That's awesome, man. Yeah, pole vaulting was a great time in my life, man. It half my life basically, but now I'm doing this, so it's great.
Yeah. So you are now the your exact job title is player performance operations, kinda. Is that?
Yeah, chief player performance operations. I do have a history, coaching, in different facets in sports, both collegiately, professionally, and at the high school level, at an elite level. But I was also an assistant athletic director, so I'm kind of wearing a lot of hats. We all are at the front office. I'm just taking care of the players, coaches, and doing a lot of things behind the scenes. But most importantly, taking care of the players from a sports performance nutrition standpoint, getting them fit, ready for camp. Now we're through camp, getting ready for the season, and hopefully keep them ready to fire during the season and healthy. That's my main objective.
Yeah, that's been one thing that's really impressed me with this league is the way you guys have taken care of the players. I mean, even just having your position is not something you would necessarily think a brand new league is going to have top on their priority, but this league really seems to be focused on getting the best product out there and making sure that we can keep the players healthy and kind of giving them some plans and maybe some different ideas and like just hands down flying them in, doing everything. Is that really, I'm guessing, something this league is really focusing on is taking care of the players to ensure you guys have a quality product from start to finish?
Yeah, our CEO when he approached me, he told me he wanted to make this a players league. Usually, when players make the transition from their collegiate careers and they go to professional careers, especially like sports like lacrosse that aren't mainstream, so to speak, they get lost in the shuffle. You go from a college program having everything taken care of you, medical, strength conditioning, everything, and then all of a sudden you're basically pushed to the side. And a lot of that stuff that we take for granted as athletes and coaches, you know, go by the wayside. And it's not a good thing if you're trying to be a professional athlete and be the best of the best. So he wanted to make sure the players had every resource that they needed from the get go, not halfway through the season, not 2 years in. So what we did, we had the initial combine in Elmira in September, and we started there by getting the players, bringing them through all kinds of testing, and then a few scrimmages. And so we did it from the start. I mean, we wanted to take care of the players. So that's kind of where I am. But again, as I mentioned, I'm wearing a lot of hats, trying to get the league going, especially this next week with opening week. But I'm mostly, as we get going, I will be taking care of the players from a strength conditioning standpoint, medical standpoint, and nutrition standpoint, just making sure they have all their needs. That way they don't have to worry about that and then get on the field and start playing, man.
Yeah, that no, like you said, I'm sure you guys are all wearing lots of hats trying to get a league up and down off the ground. I can't imagine the kind of money you guys have shelled out to ensure this because like just seeing you guys had somebody there from your division working with the teams when I went out to Syracuse and I had a chance to talk to him for a little while and it was really awesome and it was informative and I've always considered myself an athlete and somebody who's in pretty good shape, but to watch the way he leads through the warm up, like you said, it brings you back to like when you're in college or when you're a really competitive athlete and you're playing on those competitive teams like this league is, and just being able to see that in action and see like you guys sending it out, like what the priorities of this league are, seem to be lined up. And I'm not sure how you guys wearing, like you said, you're wearing many hats. You're trying to do this, you're trying to do that. You guys are all coordinating everything. The Yeah, that's huge. And I guess where I'm going with this is, as the league continues to grow, how is that where you guys see this is making it, like you said, a players league and just continuing to get these younger super athletes and kind of teach them how to be a pro athlete and what it takes to be, because you guys have a lot of guys that this is their first pro experience mixed with quite a few guys who have done this before in different leagues.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I mean, we have put a lot of resources into the league from the get go, and one of them is players. We wanted to make sure they were educated enough to take care of their bodies, and you mentioned it, a simple warm up. As I mentioned before, is that sometimes the players forget about that process that got them to this point, right? And as we get older, as the players get older, we've got to make sure they're doing everything that they can to not only be, performing at a top level, but to keep their bodies going so they can stay on the field the whole time. And it's a process. It's about educating them, bringing them through the process, bringing them through the perfect protocol to make sure that they're ready to go for the games, for practice, but also, post game and what they do throughout the week. We have a lot of players that are working full-time jobs. And so we have to formulate programs that fit their schedule, fit their weekly schedule. So that way they're ready to go for the weekend. We just don't want to have the players working all week, not training, get to the games, because eventually that's not going to work and that's not going to be a successful league. So we have to make sure the players have everything they need before they get to the field. That way they can perform and do everything that they do naturally at a high level. And that's where we are. And the investment by our CEO, Carmen Kessner, and the league has been tremendous. I know some guys have mentioned the gear, our sports performance department, everything that we have coming in such a short period of time has just been amazing. We are all working overtime, but we're going to get this thing rolling next week, and we're excited. And again, I can't stress enough how lucky I am to be working with these players, and they appreciate the efforts and everything that they see that the league has put into making this a great product. And that's where we're trying to strive to get to.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it's going to be a great product, like you said. Now, the one thing that I'm wondering, kind of building up into this first game, what are your, I guess, expectations of the league, and as it kind of forms, and you can kind of shift roles from wearing these multi hats and really focusing on player development?
Well, everyone's kind of getting in those spots now. I've been working with the players since we had our initial combine. All of the players that came out to our combine, I've been talking with them on a weekly basis, setting up their programs. Even guys that have not made active rosters, they've been working out with us and doing our programming. Some guys aren't utilizing us to the fullest, which is fine. They have their own thing going, but most guys have reached out, and I do have them on a strength conditioning program that they're doing weekly. And I'm able to, track them and communicate with them in real time, which is pretty neat, the software that we're using. And, I make my daily, weekly phone calls, whatever you want, and just making sure they have everything they need. And it's been a very positive experience for me to get to know the players on a personal level, but also to get them ready to perform. This week, we're going into an in-season mode now. We're in competition phase. Everything that we've done in the off season has gone up to this point. And now everyone's switching from a camp block, basically from a strength conditioning perspective, to now we're in a maintenance phase to get these guys that throughout the week ready to perform on the weekend, but not lose everything they worked to get to this point, if you get what I'm saying. So we've been working the off season trying to get these guys into our program with the PBLA. We made the transition. Now it's time for in-season play. And my job is to keep these guys on the field. That's what I'm trying to do. If we're going to have bumps and bruises, but if I can stay in communication with these guys and make sure that they have everything they need, we can keep them on the field. And that's the main goal.
Yeah. Now, you kind of touched on something there with software. Do you guys actually have like a app or a program digitally for these guys?
Yes, we're using Bridge Athletic app, which is pretty neat. So I build their programs, from afar. And then each player downloads the app, and it automatically, once I download it, it goes into their platform. They can log in. They fill out their performance logs, which lets me know their body weight, lets me know all their metrics, lets me know how they're feeling, how many hours of sleep they've gotten before they even start their workout. Then they do their workout, and then they implement all of their load and weights that they're doing and how they're feeling and time, and all that stuff's in there already. Plus the video helps them see exactly the exercise that I'm prescribing for them. So it's pretty cool. And then they can message me in real time, and I can change it in real time, which is neat. Then once they finish, they fill out a quick post performance log, and it gives me how long they worked out for, how hard they worked out, and things like that. That way I can make adjustments on the fly and get them ready. It's pretty neat. It's all laid out for them each day, and they get reminders if they're not logging in, and those reminders will keep coming. And if not, I have to nudge them a little bit, say, hey, let's get it going. And then some guys are like, hey, I just couldn't make it today. And then we just kind of move it back. And but it's pretty neat how technology has moved on from spreadsheets, in a normal weight room, printing paper, to to this. This is pretty neat. So I'm very appreciative of the league to be able to put these resources out there for these guys. And I hope the athletes appreciate and realize exactly what they have from a startup league trying to get things rolling and all the resources that the league has put forward, especially in strength conditioning. I mean, sometimes the sports performance department gets pushed to the wayside as well. I know I keep saying different things get pushed to the side, but these are one of those departments that sometimes the front office doesn't seem as important, but to a player, it's one of those main things that are going to get them to continue to achieve their goals. And that's the main concern that I have is the players. And that's what I'm trying to do. And I do get full 100% support from the league, which is great.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing the league has really gone out of their way. Like I've talked to several of the players, and they didn't just shove these guys on the closest team to kind of have it convenient for the league. They're paying these guys to fly all over the place, like you said with the app. Just having that kind of technology and that kind of money, anybody who understands how like the softwaring and like subscriptions work has to understand the kind of money and resources that this league is pouring into these players. And it's really nice to see a bottom up style approach where that was the priority with this league is having all your players in great shape and even just having them log it every day. That does so much for some of these guys who have always just kind of done it by feel where they, well, today I'm a little tired, I'm going to try this, or today, just having that baseline where you guys can measure too, and then you can go back after the season and kind of tweak things. And that has kind of always been your job. I was wondering if you'd give us a little bit of your background. You have been a strength and conditioning coach after being an Olympic member for quite a while now.
Yeah, and I'm just to go back a little bit, what it does too, these guys logging in and with the app and me being in this position, it holds our players accountable, right? We just don't want a bunch of players going out there performing average. We want them at the high level because if we don't put a good product on the field, the league won't last. That's not what people want to see, the best of the best, and that's what we're trying to do. So this is just one of those things that we have in place to hold them accountable, make sure they're doing everything and they're taking this as serious as what we are. And that's all we can do as coaches and administrators is make sure we hold the athletes accountable. Yeah, I've had a great career, man. I was a pole vaulter, as you mentioned, at LSU. And then after LSU, I was able to be part of the USA national team for about 8 years. I lived at the Olympic Training Center in San Diego for those years. My last team, I was an alternate for the 2008 Olympic team in China. I pulled my hamstring at the trials, and I was doing pretty well. And I got the dreaded fourth place that competition, and I was alternate. And I decided it was time to retire and hang it up. And I always knew I wanted to get into coaching. I was previously a head track and field coach at the collegiate level while I was competing at McNeese State University. And then, so since I did that, once I retired from sport, I wanted to go in something different. I played all sports in high school. I'm a big baseball fan. And then I had an opportunity to be an assistant strength conditioning coach for the San Diego Padres. So I did that for a year. Then after that, I went to the collegiate level as an assistant strength conditioning coach for Tulane University. I was there for 7-8 years, and I ended up, my last position there was an assistant athletic director in charge of all of our athletic programs, all of our athletes, and nutrition. Then after that, my wife finished school, so we moved, and then we ended up in California, and I worked for a sports agency called the Boris Corporation in Major League Baseball. Did that for about a year. And then I worked at the IMG Academy as a track and field coach during COVID. Things were kind of crazy during that time, so everything was shut down. And then the CEO, Carmen Kessner, reached out to me to do this. And I said, why not? It's lacrosse. I can help the league in any way. I do have a lot of experience training high-profile athletes. Why not build lacrosse? Because we all know lacrosse is fast growing, and sometimes they don't get the recognition they need. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And now, since I've been in it since September, it's been a very exciting time for me. I've learned a lot, getting to know the athletes. Every time I go to a training camp, I go to a practice, a scrimmage, I get excited, and I can't wait for the games to start next week. I mean, it's an exciting game. And I know some of your podcasts before you guys spoke, about the transition and the way the rules have changed. And one thing about a strength conditioning coach is that when I first went to the first training camp and I saw the new rules implemented, it was like, wow, these guys need to be in shape. They are running up and down the floor, playing both O and D. I'm like, okay, I gotta do a little bit more of my work getting these guys in shape. And no matter how much you train, once you get in that competition mode, trying to make a team in training camp, your legs are going to be so tired, especially with the new rules, making the game exciting and winded. So I'm constantly on my toes, making adjustments with the league, but we're going to get there, and the athletes are getting into shape right now, and hopefully they're ready to go by next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw the scrimmages and I can't imagine what the final performance is going to be because the scrimmage I got to watch with Binghamton and Syracuse was wow. I mean, that was crazy. And I can't imagine like what are you guys expecting as far as because this first game as well is going to be played on one of the Native American reservations. I mean, how cool is that that you guys get to do that and then get to do the right thing by making sure that maybe you don't have a team up there yet, but you're making sure we give games back to and the inaugural lacrosse TV. It's a big deal game to be played there.
Yeah, that was one of the things that the league wanted to do is recognize, the whole history of the game. John Livsley, our president of business operations, has done a good job about implementing that and getting the marketing out there and just kind of getting a game plan for the league. And that's why we're starting up there next Thursday, at Six Nations. And it's an exciting time to have a diverse set of athletes into the league, is one of the things that we wanted to make sure we do. But just giving back to the history of the league. The athletes, I have been really surprised with the athletes though that we've had. I train high profile athletes across the board, but never really lacrosse until this point. But I've been surprised at the type of athlete a lacrosse player is, especially the indoor game. The box game is how fast and how strong and how big some of these athletes are and the skills that they use with their stick. I mean, I'm just amazed, the agility, everything. As a strength conditioning professional, I've been surprised at the type of athlete. That's why, as a fan, I mean, it's going to be an exciting game to watch these guys play box in the PBLA.
Yeah, I mean that's one thing with that rule change and the way it's kind of working where they have to go in through one door and out the other. I was talking to I wish I could remember who it was now. I talked to so many people. But talking about the odd man rushes. Oh, Joe French from Charlotte because
Mhm.
not just the fast break odd man rushes, but when you have a guy who's exhausted and trying to make that decision, do I waste the extra, 10 yards to get to the bench or and having that fast pace, I mean, how important is it for you guys to make sure you're implementing speed while maintaining strength because it is a contact sport? And how do you guys kind of focus on grip strength, I guess would be my main question because like your forearms are such a big part of this game. And you being a pole vaulter, you had to have some pretty. I'm really curious to see how you answer this one.
Well, to train an athlete, any athlete, you got to make sure they're an athlete first, that you train them as an athlete. Then as you go along the year, you get sport specific. So, we start at a base level, get their conditioning and fitness up, their strength up, and then we move into a power phase, which we start streamlining, shorter intervals, more speed and agility work, and more power movements. Because remember, you train slow, you're going to be slow. Train fast, you're going to be fast. And that's kind of like what we try to do, And so as we progress and as we went through our periodization up until now, everything's been strength, max strength, and then power. Now we're in a maintenance phase. So we're firing on all cylinders now. These guys should be rested, not only from a body standpoint, but central nervous system. Want to make sure their central nervous system is firing to where they're ready on game day. And that's one thing why we strategically place their workouts throughout the week, making sure that, we're not doing too much, but we're not doing too little to make sure that they're ready to go on the weekend for game day. But forearm, yeah, you got to remember, you're getting forearm work when you're doing anything upper body, right? If you're holding on to a rope or a barbell or a dumbbell or med ball, whatever you're doing. So we're getting forearm work then, and any auxiliary work that we do. I mean, there's so many different exercises. I mean, I can go on and on, but we do get total body in. We have our splits, lower, upper, then we get a total body day. So, yeah, that's kind of a loaded question, but we do a multifaceted of everything. Just because we mentioned how good of an athlete these players are and the amount of volume of running that they're going to have to do in our game. And, I've had to make adjustments on the fly. Seeing the combine and seeing scrimmages and stuff, I made adjustments right away, making sure our volumes were up. And also communicating with the athletes, after each week. Hey, how was it? How do you feel? And that's one thing you said. You saw one of my colleagues up in Utica at training camp. That's why we tried to make our rounds through training camp, get to know the athletes for one, be a representation of the league, to show the players that we do care and that we're there on a training camp day, and also make sure we're communicating with the players and coaches to see how do you feel, what do you need, and using our eyes too to make adjustments on the fly, making sure, as you mentioned, warm up was properly done, cool down was properly done. Do we need to turn up the volume on the guys? Do we need to tone it down? How are the injuries coming? Where do we need to make adjustments? And that's all about being there. and it's hard to make those adjustments if you're not there seeing it in real time. So that's why we're making our rounds. We're going to be making our rounds throughout the season. And I take it from my days of working in professional baseball. That's kind of how I set up this department in the league. Is I'm in communication with the athletes all the time, weekly, if not daily, with some of them, and also making my rounds, making sure I'm seeing that things are going in the progression that we want to go, but also communicating with the coaches, because it is the coaches' teams. And if I see something that we might need to tweak, I talk to the coach, ask his permission, and he says yes. If not, if I don't need tweaks, the coaches have total, hands-on with their team. They're good to go. I don't make any adjustments then, because it's the coach's team, and he kind of knows his athletes better than I do. I'm there as a resource, as a support staff to help the teams get going where they need to go.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, you talked about wearing a lot of hats. I mean, you kind of have been groomed for that position as, the athletic director is kind of one of the most underrated or underappreciated, I guess, jobs ever, because they're the ones who facilitate basically everything, your schedules, making sure people have equipment, and nobody sees that guy because he's not out on the field with the team and he's doing that. I mean, could you talk a little bit about your experience as being an athletic director and kind of going that way, and how being an athlete and an athletic director maybe has you looking at things a little differently than somebody who wasn't such a high caliber athlete?
Yeah, and just to rephrase it, everyone in the league has been wearing so many hats. We're trying to get this thing going, and everyone's done a great job, and we continue to support each other, and we pick up the pieces where we need to, and we're there. We're in constant communication, and because we will make sure this thing gets off next week with a bang and ready to go. And it's been a work in progress this whole year. We've been going at it, trying to do everything we can to get everything that's needed so we can get the season off next week. I've had some great mentors throughout my career. My college coach, he's at A&M now, head track and field coach, one of the best track and field coaches, Pat Henry. He was my first mentor from a coaching standpoint. He knew I wanted to coach, and he kind of started giving me advice along the way while I was competing. He was also my Team USA coach for a couple of teams when I was competing as a pole vaulter. And then when I worked at San Diego Padres, Jim Malone was my supervisor with San Diego Padres. He was the president of the Strength Conditioning Society for Professional Baseball, so I got to learn under him. And then when I got to the college world, working under Rick Dixon, who's now at Tulsa as an athletic director, Barbara Burke, who was my supervisor. She's now second in command at the University of Iowa. They put me in these spots. They challenged me. I learned along the way, made a lot of mistakes, but learned from them. And I'm very grateful for all those opportunities. That's the only way you're going to grow. And I've taken all that I learned throughout the years, especially from Tulane University as an assistant AD, and tried to help the league out, not only in my department, but help the league out as we go along to be more organized, what we see down the road. I'm not so much on the scheduling as some other guys are in the league, but just helping people out as we go, just being organized, if it's from medicals to make sure we're all cleared, making sure the players, again, have what they need as we get on the road and get things going for training camp, which we have. And now we got to turn our focus to the season, make sure these guys have everything they need on game day, making sure, Brian Mankemeyer is working on, they're traveling. Like you mentioned, we have a lot of guys flying in every weekend for games coming throughout the continent. So it's been a work in progress. We're all working together. I can't take credit for one thing, but it does help to be, to have that experience, just so we can be organized as a league.
All right. One more question, then I'll let you go. I know you guys are super busy right now. What has been your biggest surprise going into this league, as far as either dealing with the lacrosse players or just trying a brand new startup league? Because this is new for so many people. I mean, not many people get the opportunity to start a league or be part of something like this.
I think, like I mentioned before, the athletes, I'm surprised at how athletic that lacrosse players are, especially at this level. I've watched lacrosse, and I've known the athletes, but now working with them, they have to be some of the most gifted athletes on the planet, to be totally honest with you. They don't get enough credit, in my view. Two, when we did the initial combine, we went all out. We had testing on Friday, we had practices throughout Saturday, and we had scrimmages on Sunday. We did it top notch. And again, Carmen Kestner, our CEO, really wanted to get it going from the start, along with Steve Donner, our commissioner. And then I made sure that we did it right. And the reaction from the players, I don't think a lot of players have ever been through something like that. They've seen like the NFL combine, NBA, MLB combine, NHL combines on TV. And that's kind of what we wanted to mimic to get the league off the ground running. And we were very successful. We'll probably have another combine at the beginning of each year. And then along the way, we actually had many combines throughout, as we were trying to scout players and, get rosters set, get training camp rosters set. So, and it was a surprise to the athletes again that we had strength conditioning staff there, we had operations people there, we had front office staff there, and we made sure it was professional from the start. And that's what we want to do as this league, to make sure that we're professional moving forward, and we continue to grow and continue to put a good product on the field and keep growing the excitement of lacrosse. Box lacrosse is very exciting. I didn't know much about it being raised in Louisiana, but my wife's from Ontario, Canada, and I have a lot of friends up there and family, and they were, when I told them about the PBLA at first, they were like, "Oh yeah, we know box. We all play box. It's an exciting game." And then from then on there, I started researching and making sure that I was aware of the game, the rules. I asked a lot of questions, and the excitement that I've seen at training camps and practices, I can't wait for the games to start. And I hope everyone gets on board and gives us a chance, supports the PBLA and supports these players, because as I mentioned before, a lot of them working full-time jobs, trying to achieve their goals and dreams on the weekends. And, it's excitement. I mean, who doesn't want to go watch a game? So that's all we ask for, is people to support us and give us a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think once people see the final product out there, it's going to be a no-brainer. You guys are going to start picking up fans. I mean, you're going to have several season ticket holders. I bet after the first week that they watch it, they're like, "Oh, this is what it is." And I think, like you said, giving that chance for the players, I can tell you, everybody I've talked to has been so grateful for the experience, because that's what they said. Like, you get a plane ticket, then you walk off the plane, you walk into the hotel, you just tell them your name, and now you're at a pro combine. I mean, that's such an amazing feeling that most people never get a chance to experience in their life. And like I said, me and a lot of the players really appreciate what you've done for all those guys, and would like to thank you guys.
Well, you're welcome, but that's the way it should be, right? Why does some sports get all the attention and others don't? And I take this personally because I was a track and field athlete, right, as we mentioned. And, there was a lot of times to where we didn't have all the stuff either that we should have. Other than the Olympic year, nobody really paid attention. So personally, I've taken attention to make sure that these athletes have everything they need. If we started from the combine, making sure that it's top-notch, first class, that's what we're trying to do. Yes, we've had some bumps along the way, but we're trying to fix all those. That way the players can, like you mentioned, get on a plane, show up at the hotel, get ready to play the game the next day, play the game, and then be ready to go for the next week. That's our jobs. That's a lot of my job, is to make sure that they're ready, as I mentioned previously. But we appreciate that the players, their feedback, and it has been mostly positive from our perspective as well. So I appreciate all the good words. Thank you for your support. All the podcasts that you've done. I mean, you're all over social media now, and that's how we got in contact. But I watch everything. I'm more on social media than I've ever been before, and all I see is lacrosse, which is great. And we're going to continue to grow the games. I'm here in South Florida, and my two daughters are playing lacrosse now. I mean, it's growing here. And as I mentioned, I worked at IMG Academy. They got a huge lacrosse program there, and continue to grow. We got to continue to grow the sport, and that's what the PBLA is trying to do, continue to grow the box game in America, to give our American players an opportunity to keep playing, after college. That's what we want to do, is just give them an opportunity to keep achieving their goals for the box game. And then that's the main goal of the PBLA. So thank you for everything as well.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And yeah, let's grow this game together, and hopefully nothing but good things up ahead. And if you guys ever need anything, like if you were getting ready to make an announcement, have anybody just send me a message about it, and I'll talk to anybody, so you guys get a chance to talk about it. At least gives you a platform to kind of, explain it, and how things go. Like right.
They'll get used to the speed of the game too. And that's what's making it exciting. That's exactly what Steve Donner wanted to do, is change the game up, make it exciting again, like back in the old days. And we're doing that. Yeah, we have to go through this process of making a change. Nobody wants change, but change is good. I think it's good for the game. And again, as we mentioned many times during this podcast, it's making the game exciting, making these guys run up and down the field, making them be better athletes, making the goalies more involved, which is something that I've seen, take place with this new league. So absolutely. When we get off, I'll give you the contacts to everyone. That way you can reach out to them, and hopefully they get back to you, and we continue to grow this relationship. And again, we can't appreciate it enough, by you interviewing the players and growing the game, especially the PBLA. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I've actually got Steve's supposed to do it Friday, Donner. So we'll
Awesome.
or Thursday. So I haven't met anybody. My only connection to this is that guy that runs the Utica Yeti team was my college coach 20
Oh,
years ago.
really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's where Binghamton and Syracuse were up there, right? Having the training camp. That's
Yeah.
correct.
And
Yeah.
I actually live just outside of Albany, so I'm even 2 hours from Utica. But we got the Albany Firewolves a year ago, and I was like, oh, all right, yeah, this is sweet.
Well, when you talk to Steve, he'll have a lot more history of the game, back in his NLL days and MIL days and all that stuff. He'll give you the whole rundown, and Steve's very good. He's gonna be a good guest for you. So I can't wait to watch that one.
Awesome, thanks a lot. And yeah, we got to do this again sometime. And one of these days, I'd love to do one of my long form ones with you when you got a couple hours, because I'd love to cover your career. Like you said, track guys don't get a lot of love. My favorite is talking to guys who play these sports, because you can't take a traditional route through it. Like, you have to love what you're
Oh,
doing and put in a ton of extra work that nobody else. Like you said, you don't always have the options to have stuff. So yeah, I'd love to do that one of these days. Maybe after the league gets going, you calm down a little bit.
yeah, I can tell you a lot of stories, man. Great stories though. Great. I would not change them for the world. It was hard sometimes, but it was good some other times. But yeah, traveling around the world, meeting great people. I mean, that's what it's about. That's what's molded me today, into who I am today. So it's been good, man.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, not a problem. We'll talk again. Have a good night.
Okay, take care, buddy.